CyberTech Worlds Clash, by Outlaw Realms. Chapter 5. Seraph of Emotions. The Order of the Phoenix was in disarray as Sirius joined other members outside and watched as the 4 Muggle helicopters flew off. He had told James and Lily all those years ago that listening to Dumbledore about Harry would probably come back to bite them painfully on the arse, and here they were 22 years later and they had lost both children. It was ironic that Dumbledore did this because he was scared of one prophecy taking place, but in doing so he only fueled the prophecy into action. Sirius couldn't be sure that Harry would actually reveal the magical world, but it was made clear he could if he wanted to. Anyway, the prophecy had never made it clear that's what it meant. Sirius had never been too sure that the stupid prophecy actually meant that in the first place and couldn't really put much faith in fortune-telling like Harry said. All of that crap was more like messing around with possibilities. After all, the second prophecy contradicted the first, which pretty much admitted that fate and destiny were not written in stone, and they were both bitches up to more troublesomeness than Sirius ever thought possible at school. He was just happy, and thankful that Harry was okay and doing well, and now had taken Amanda. Sirius knew the girl would be happier with her brother and would have a lot more freedom. Anyway, only the Dumbledore worshippers believed that Voldemort was after her at all. It was quite common knowledge really that the girl who lived had been denied any real training to fight Voldemort. That Dumbledore had openly stopped her learning what she wanted. Though, Sirius knew that did little to hamper her, and when normal magics were denied her, she had seen fit to raid Sirius's family libraries, and delve a little into some less savory avenues of casting before Molly Weasley saw fit to remove all the books at his old family home that he let the Order use only to shut them up. Sirius didn't blame Amanda for delving a little into the dark arts as it was all that was left for her to learn with Dumbledore spying on her everywhere, and Sirius sure as hell wasn't going to stop her. It served the old bastard right. Amanda had been an adult for 6 years and his followers treated her and Ginny like misbehaving children, as they pretty much restricted what either could do. Dumbledore should probably think himself lucky that Amanda hadn't lashed out and killed him. It had been obvious to non-worshippers that the girl had been close to just attacking him on many occasions. However, the worst part was, the old man didn't ever think he was in the wrong, and his supporters thought he was unflappable. Heck, the old bastard had practically declared war on the Muggles for the whole of the wizarding world as if he had any such right, and still he didn't think he was in the wrong. Someone was seeing to Dumbledore's wound now, and the fool kept sprouting off crap about getting Amanda back. That they would have no choice but to fight this madman, Harry Avalon, and it was riling up Dumbledore's more fanatical supporters. Even those who got shot wouldn't see reason, leading Sirius to wonder whether it would have been better to have gotten a ride with Harry, Ginny, and Amanda, home. They were starting to remind him of the Death Eaters. It was as if the old man had the meeting out of his self-righteous hands even when he made no argument or sense. Woe, sighed Hermione suddenly. Harry Avalon is so cool, she added before looking down at the old man and fools that got shot as if she almost forgot they were there. Finally, someone had put Dumbledore and his idiots in their place. Though, it looked like the warning had gone right over the old headmaster's head. Sirius chuckled. Well, I have to admit, Harry has style, he agreed with the girl, and felt a little jealous as he noted it wasn't just Hermione looking lovesick. But then, rich, smart, good-looking, tall, muscles, and Muggle soldiers and awesome Muggle flying machines, at his command. What are you talking about? Demanded Lily suddenly as she was spared from being shot. He just kidnapped our baby, I'm going to call the Aurors. I don't think that very wise, Mrs. Potter interrupted Hermione. First, She left by herself and she's 23, nearly 24, and second. Harry Avalon's security at CyberTech will be so tight the errors would never get past the lobby. Then we'll force our way in, answered James looking smug. Do you not listen, interrupted a young blonde woman as her pale blue eyes looked at the man in annoyance. If the Order of the Phoenix continues down this road, Mr. Potter, then we will have declared war on the Muggle world, on behalf of every witch and wizard on the planet whether they want it or not. I for one would prefer not to go to war with them. After all, we still have Voldemort and his Death Eaters to deal with. The fact of the matter is I do not wish to end up in a supervillain prison, thank you very much. Yeah, neither do I, Hermione agreed, nodding her head, though only a few people seemed to know what they were talking about, even though it was pretty self-explanatory. Some mage could be so thick sometimes. But of course, if news gets out about our war, we'll have superheroes after us too, commented a young man with mousy brown hair. Like that Captain Britain guy I've seen in the news, or worse, and the whole of the Avengers. You've obviously lost the plot if you want to go after someone like Harry Avalon. What the hell are you talking about? Demanded James heatedly. Those muggles kidnapped my daughter. Even now you care nothing for your son, Hermione spoke frostily. It leads me to believe you only care about the girl who lived and not your daughter, Amanda Potter. No. Amanda Avalon. Go ahead and try kidnapping Amy, you loser, and see where that gets you. Meanwhile, oblivious to the arguments about to take place with Dumbledore and his group, and the embarrassingly small number of mage who weren't that ignorant, Amanda, Ginny, and Harry were in the helicopter, flying towards London, and away from the crazies. So, bro, Amanda began shyly, blushing. Where shall we be staying? She asked with a slightly worried frown. Oh, he thought for a moment before shrugging. You can both stay with me, I have spare rooms and beds and stuff. But what about Voldemort and Dumbledore? She continued worriedly. I doubt Voldemort will care enough to try killing me, but Dumbledore's a freaking nut job. He'll keep coming and coming. He doesn't listen to anyone but that senile old voice in his head. You'll have to get some wards, Ginny interrupted from where she sat buckled up next to him. But they might not hold up against the likes of Dumbledore. Oh, so these wards are those barriers Seraph is picking up all over the planet? Harry asked in deep thought. Do either of you know what stops someone from teleporting through them? My oldest brother Bill once told me that they stop, magic from entering, Ginny replied in thought. But he said they don't stop mana from entering, which is why we can't transport in using magic, but we can walk through. Though, portkeys and people can be tuned into the wards so they can get through, but not many places allow that, as it is possible to fake a magical signature and trick the ward. I see, he muttered thoughtfully. But what happens if someone hits the ward? He asked them. They just slide off and get diverted, normally back to their start point. Amanda answered helpfully. Most of the time things like that are accidents where someone tries to apparate too close to the ward and clip it. Most places like Diagon Alley or the Ministry's wards will alert them to an idiot trying to get through the wards, but they are normally smart enough to know whether someone just missed the apparition points. Interesting, Harry muttered with a smirk. These wards sound just like my distortion field technology. I believe with a little tweaking that it should be possible to stop anyone from outside teleporting in or out. My research department has already been reconfiguring the field to mess with teleportation, but hopefully with some more information on wards we'll get something more impressive. You've invented something that is like a Muggle ward? Amanda asked in wide-eyed awe. Harry shrugged sheepishly. Yeah, I guess, he nodded in agreement. but from what our scans say, these wards are layers upon layers of shielding, whereas my distortion fields could possibly do everything they do with a single resonating field. It would take less power and be more powerful, and quite a lot more efficient, I would think, with a program to run the system, and rotate a changing encryption, and the... Wow, that's awesome, Amanda quickly interrupted in awe while looking lost, and not needing her newly found brother to go into too much more detail or her brain might explode. You're like a genius or something. He laughed and winked. Well, I don't like to blow my own horn, but, wait a minute, yes I do, so yep. I've created wonders that would no doubt wow you adorable magical girls, he said laughingly. Like what? Ginny asked interestedly while she and Amanda blushed. Dad loves muggle stuff, if it's too good you'll win him over with a look around. Harry laughed, rolling his eyes. You'll just have to wait and see, he told them, amused as they both puppy dog pouted at him. I'm still not telling you, he said laughingly. The two girls moaned with cute little huffs as they sulked for a short while before Amanda began asking questions. So, where do you live? How big is your apartment? She asked eagerly. She had not lived away from her parents before and could not wait. She was pushing the thought of them from her mind as they had done some seriously messed up things on Dumbledore's orders, but throwing out their own son was by far the most foul, especially when she knew that her Muggle aunt and uncle were in jail for child abuse. Amanda could never forgive them or Dumbledore for what they did to her brother and knew she would never return. Maybe Harry would give her and Ginny a job. She knew the main reason her best friend was with her was because Ginny went where she went, but also because her mother and brother, Ron, were super fanatical Dumbledore lovers, and it was bad for her safety to stay there alone. Though Amy had to admit it had also probably got something to do with her cute rich brother. Not that Ginny was a gold digger or anything, as she always refused handouts from her and had never asked for anything. Her red-haired friend was way too stubborn. She would rather get a job. Though, neither had actually been allowed jobs before, so they both had to stay living out of their parents' pockets. It made her mad just thinking about it. Well, it has 7 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, a large kitchen and dining room, with a massive lounge, a cinema, a swimming pool, a bowling alley, and probably rooms I've never been in before. It's in my London CyberTech building, so I don't have to go far to get to work, he replied amusedly. So, you going to give us paying work or what? Amanda just blurted out as that was what she wanted. She didn't want to be sponging off her brother, and she would need something to keep her busy. Harry shrugged in thought. I don't see why not, he agreed, nodding. I could use a secretary. My last one turned out to be a freaking SHIELD spy. Now the screening process is so much tougher, it's hard to get someone trustworthy, he rolled his eyes. And I could also use a personal assistant. I hate writing memos and crap like that, and using Seraph to do it isn't the same, plus she can't leave the building, yet, so it can be inconvenient, he laughed amusedly. Okay. Amy began but trailed off as her eyes widened. Wait, a spy? What the heck is SHIELD? Blah, he said, shrugging. Just a secret government strike force that operates primarily in the UN countries out of the US. It's no big deal, they didn't get anything worth mentioning and I sent her back in a box, special delivery. You killed her? Amy and Ginny declared together, shocked and horrified. No, he replied, amused. Tied up and sedated, he answered to their relief. The Colonel was most certainly not pleased, but he couldn't say shit as he was committing a crime by planting the spy. Oh, well, okay, said Amanda, relieved her brother didn't murder the spy. Though, by the sound of it, these SHIELD guys wouldn't have and couldn't have done anything about it if Harry had killed the spy. So, what does a secretary do exactly? She asked. Harry just shrugged. I'm not too sure about the finer details, but answering phones, patching through calls to me and sending in clients etc. If they have a meeting with me, and you'll have to ask Seraph about all the details. Okay, I'll take it, and Ginny can do the other one, she answered with a nod, but blushed and looked worried a moment later. Someone will show us how everything works, right? Yeah, don't worry. Seraph will help you through everything you both need to learn, he agreed. And then it's just a matter of learning as you go. So, who's Seraph? Ginny suddenly asked, hoping she didn't sound too curious. She's my computer network, he replied with a small knowing smirk. Ginny may not know much, as she sighed in relief, but she did know computers weren't pretty girls that could be competition. So, what's the pay? Amy asked, smiling a little as her friend had almost made a fool of herself. Seraph says the pay is an estimated 109,000 per year before taxes, he replied with a shrug. Whoa, damn, that's most certainly a lot more than Hermione gets working at Hogwarts, she declared with a wide grin. Hermione barely makes £9,000 a year in Muggle money. Wow, your friend's getting fucked over, Harry answered. Damn, that's little. Heck, what you'll both be getting is just the starter wage, plus you get the usual expenses, life and health insurance, as well as pension, etc. Wait a minute, Amanda suddenly said in thought. How did Seraph tell you how much the jobs give? She asked as she tried not to think about how much every penny of her wage, including that, would come to. Heck, Ginny had just gone from rags to riches, as the saying goes. Only Ginny's twin brothers could possibly claim to be better off than her right then. Harry laughed, raising an amused eyebrow and tapping the black thing in his right ear. We've been in constant communication since I left the building. Wow, I never noticed that, she answered sheepishly. But what about Voldemort? I already feel like I'm doing nothing. He has to be stopped, he's killing innocent people. Don't you worry, he replied, reaching over and taking her hands in his. I won't let the bastard get away with it. However, I believe our immediate threat is Albus Dumbledore. Though, I'm doubtful that he or his Order of the Phoenix has a clue, so hopefully his defeat shall be a simple matter of when the time comes. But, how can you? Asked Ginny worriedly. Dumbledore and Voldemort have magic on their side. Harry laughed as he patted his left forearm. Well, I have science, and my science is far greater than their magic shall ever be, as they lack imagination. Oh, mumbled Amy uncertainly. She supposed she and Ginny shouldn't judge until they had seen what her brother could do. So, how long until we land? She asked to hopefully change the subject. Harry shrugged. However, Amy and Ginny jumped as they heard a girlish giggle coming from the helicopter's speakers. 2 minutes and counting, Miss Avalon, she replied giggly. Amanda was flabbergasted. Wow, who is she? My name is Seraph, she answered, amused. My darling, Harry, you should talk more about me. After all, I am awesome. Darling, asked Amy mockingly, as both she and Ginny snickered. Harry blushed again when Seraph giggled over the speakers. He thinks I'm childish, she commented amusedly. He keeps forgetting I am only 3, she giggled again before going silent. 3, asked Amy, frowning, her giggles forgotten. Hang on, how can your computer talk and laugh? Harry smiled and just shook his head in amusement. You'll see, was all he said as the helicopter came in for a landing. The two girls looked out of the windows and gasped loudly. Oh my God, that building's massive, commented Ginny in awe. Though, in all honesty, massive seemed to be quite the understatement. The building was something the likes Ginny had never seen before, walls upon walls of glass and black metal with a huge red T in a Red Sea logo like cogs on the side she could see with windows curving around it. It was certainly the tallest building in the whole city as it towered over the others. She was almost certain that nobody could get lost looking for this building. She noted the lower, step-like roof about halfway down as the helicopter began its descent towards it and some kind of landing platform. "Why don't we land on the high roof?" Amanda suddenly asked just as the helicopter touched down and the propeller blades started slowing as the engine cut out, and they could see the other helicopters flying past to wherever they would land. Harry just chuckled. "It's too windy up there to be very safe, which makes it harder to land. But here, part of the building actually shields us, plus we're low enough that it's not too windy," he answered, smiling as he slid the door open and unbuckled his seatbelt before unbuckling the girls. "Well, come on," he said as he hopped out and helped them down before leading them towards a set of double doors. They reached the doors and the two girls started as they slid open automatically and they walked into a huge blue corridor with a few doors leading off to the sides, but up ahead 3 elevators. "Darling," giggled Seraph as she seemed to appear out of nowhere as they stopped in the hall and the door behind them slid shut. She then turned her attention to Ginny and Amy with a wide smile. "It's nice to meet you two in person," she giggled, taking the two confused girls' hands and leading them towards the elevators with Harry alongside. "You'll love living here," she chimed, overjoyed. Who are you?" asked Amy, beyond confused. The girl sounded like her brother's computer, but computers could not walk around, and talk, could they? "I'm Seraph, silly," she giggled amusedly. The two girls double-took as they reached a lift and the door just opened and they walked in, stopping the doors closed, and they ascended. "But Harry said Seraph's a computer, not a girl. Are you a robot or something?" "No, silly," she giggled. "I'm a hard-light holographic representation of a human. I am the CyberTech mainframe network. Seraph. People think my name is an anagram, but it's just a name. Though, I sometimes make something silly up. And technically if I was a machine, I would be an android. Robots aren't as correct as I am." "But you feel so real," said Amy in awe. "And you laugh and make fun." Seraph smirked. "I am the most advanced system on the face of the planet," she informed them smugly. "What's holographic mean?" interrupted Ginny, befuddled. "Oh, it's compressing, bending, and projecting low-yield ultraviolet light beams into." Harry paused as they both looked lost. "We twist light to create physical illusions, and manipulate sound waves to field." They still looked lost. "It's scientific magic. The whole building has a holographic grid made from light emitters," he said with a sigh as they nodded along in thought that time. "Seraph is the Seraph Network's avatar and uses an advanced AI, artificial intelligence I called the S-Core. She also utilizes the EPU, which is the Emotional Processing Unit." "Whoa," whispered Amy in shock. "I didn't get much of that, but when you mentioned you're a genius, I had no idea how wrong that was. You're like a super genius." Harry blushed at her praise. "I also have much more fun system cores. I can actually feel physical things," piped in Seraph proudly. "I can produce saliva and even get turned on in the sexual sense, and orgasm," she replied, overjoyed. "I am the most advanced piece of technology on the planet. Maybe even the galaxy." Harry blushed brightly as his blushing sister and her best friend stared at him. "You've been screwing her, haven't you?" accused Amy with a small glare. Well, actually she thought it was funny and brilliant and wondered whether Seraph could change her sex or whether Harry might make her a male one. Though, looking at how beautiful Seraph was, and how well she worked her weird outfit choice and hair dye, well, Amanda wouldn't turn her down as she was. Of course, he has piped in Seraph with a dreamy expression. It feels so good when we're in bed together, you should try it. Ginny and Amy blushed brightly. I can't do that, replied Amy, rolling her eyes. He's my brother. Though, he's not Ginny's brother, so she said, suddenly smirking at her blushing best friend. Harry groaned, burning red. Seraph, I told you to stop telling every girl you meet. Seraph smirked while sticking her tongue out as the elevator stopped and the doors opened into a huge lounge containing a few small tables and some leather couches. Come, follow me, she said, leading the way. Whoa, this place is awesome, giggled Amy, ridding her head of images of her brother having sex with his computer, or her for that matter. Not that he wasn't cute, but he was her twin. Though, thinking about it like that didn't make her want him any less. She glanced at her best friend, wondering whether her brother and Ginny would get together. She hoped so. Ginny could do with a nice boyfriend, and a rich one would just be an added bonus to her. Though, that naughty wrong part of her mind knew that Ginny wouldn't mind sharing Harry with her. Glad you like it, Harry grinned, oblivious to his sister's strange inner monologue. Welcome home, he chuckled amusedly as his two new roommates grinned. Harry interrupted Seraph, startling him. I believe you're needed downstairs, she added, looking worried. It's a code red. However, there is also a police report of a code blue in Manchester. Harry groaned in annoyance. I can't deal with the code blue, he replied tiredly. But I'll take care of the code red. If the code blue is still in effect by the time I'm done, I'll deal with it. Okay, everything's prepared and ready for the go, she answered, nodding as Harry walked to the elevator. Wait. Amy suddenly called out in annoyance, halting Harry. What the heck's a code blue or code red? She demanded to know. Where are you going? He quickly thought as he moved closer to the door. It's just a business thing, don't worry, I'll be back later. Seraph will help you order some clothes and snacks and stuff that you might need. See you girls later. The elevator opened and before either Ginny or Amanda could say or do anything, Harry had fled and the elevator took him away, leaving the three alone. Right. Online shopping, said Seraph, eagerly giggling as two holographic window screens popped up in front of the two girls with names of many fashion shops. But where's Harry going? Amy asked, worried about him. She hoped it wasn't anything dangerous, though there was that part of her that knew it was dangerous. Don't worry, Seraph replied with a reassuring smile. It appears that the Fantastic Four were in the country for some sort of collaboration to do with quantum mechanics or something, so the code blue is being taken care of. Harry was supposed to be there, but I cancelled earlier. It kind of looks boring as I'm recording the event with a few delightfully bored young ladies that lost a bet with some of their colleagues in our videotech research department. They both asked in unison, but startled as their screens changed to show the image of two men, one blonde woman, and an orange rock thing that was probably a man wearing blue padded suits, though the rock guy only wore shorts. Seraph figured they would be more interested in superheroes than boring science stuff with some boringly arrogant scientists. The Fantastic Four, Seraph said with a grin. They are superheroes. Mr. Fantastic is elastic, the Human Torch can create and manipulate fire, the Invisible Woman creates force fields, and the Thing, well, he's strong. They all gained superpowers by exposure to some seriously freaky cosmic radiation while in space, and now they mostly deal with alien supervillains, which is a code yellow, but they deal with code blues, which are meta-human supervillains, or code greens, which are mutant supervillains. What the hell? Cried out Amanda. You mean the magical world isn't the only crazy bunch of weirdos? she asked with wide eyes while Ginny's mouth was open in shock and awe as they watched as these people fought on the screen with crazy powers. Oh okay, so what's a mutant, and metahuman? I'm at least smart enough to know what an alien is. It's still a shock looking at these pictures of some of them. Aliens of course you know are from other planets. Seraph began with a shrug and only Amy nodded. However, metahumans are normal human beings that have been exposed to something, typically some kind of radiation or gas, which unnaturally mutates their genes giving them superpowers like the Fantastic Four. However, mutants are a new stage of human evolution where they naturally gain special abilities that normally start showing up around the point of puberty, but not always, sometimes late, sometimes early. However, children born to mutants or metahumans are more unpredictable when it comes to awakening. Some can be awake from birth. Then what's a code red? Amy asked worriedly if Harry was worried about that more than criminals with superpowers. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to discuss code red, she answered with a shrug. Magical supervillains, Ginny whispered in shock, but Seraph didn't look surprised or bothered as Amy's eyes widened in horror. Voldemort, Amy whispered while Seraph shrugged. Harry is, she couldn't even bring herself to say the words as she worried. Seraph just placed her finger to her new friend's lips in a gesture for secrecy and laughed. I didn't tell you anything of the sort, so don't tell him you know anything. Though I'm sure he'll realize you know he won't bring it up if you don't. Amy and Ginny just looked at each other and silently agreed with a nod. It seemed almost too much for them to handle. To be continued. Thank you very much for listening to my fanfiction audiobook. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and hit that thumbs up button, and you'll be hearing from me on the next chapter, sometime soon. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Outlaw Realms. Till next time.